What's going on, everybody? It's me, the Rye Guy, working on a nickname. Do you like it? Comment below. You can't really comment. There's no comment section, but I'm the host of this podcast called Classic Buffalo, where we share everyday people's stories, like you, listener. About people's pains, struggles, things that they want to do in life, their passions, things that make them happy and smile and laugh. And at one point during this podcast, we talked about ducks. We had Duck Corner. But today, we interview Brandon Reel. He is a audio and music producer, and then he also does and dabbles in some fitness with some baseball. But we tackle his journey where he dropped out of college and pursued something. And we have some really cool mental health conversation about being a tree for other people. And a couple moments where you go, bars! So it's a pretty good episode, and I hope you are able to enjoy this episode on today's Monday. Yeah, it's a normal day with a normal episode. So without further ado, let's get to book 61 with Brandon Reel. Here we go. Joining me this wonderful Tuesday is the guy who dropped out to make beats and work out. Wait, well, I wanted to say what the actual thing you said on your Instagram bio is. But
is it still there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
What's up, Brandon Reel? How are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good, man.
Trying to keep it all positive right now.
Yeah. Were you door dashing or just with the girl?
Since, pretty much everything's either shut down or on hold for a while, just to kind of make ends meet, we go out and DoorDash like throughout the week for a couple hours, and she kind of drives around and I'm just like riding shotgun to keep her company and make what we need and then head back. So that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I bet you had some like crazy DoorDash, whatever stuff stories.
We have a few that are kind of questionable.
My brother said this woman tried to she tried to evangelize to him, like in the middle of her driveway. He was like trying to leave, like he dropped it because it was like a duplex. I think it was like another lady who was like just walking like, "Hey, do you have a second, sir?" And just starts kind of like waddling over to my brother. Are you saved?
Like time and place.
Yeah, it was just my brother's like, I gotta go, I got another order. And she gets up into his car, like leaning into the window, and he just sped out. But,
oh my goodness, yeah, we don't have anything that I don't want to say invasive, but kind of sounds like it.
Right. Well, hey man, let's get into some icebreaker questions. Kind of get us a little bit warmed up with just talking about, get to know who you are. So, number one, would you rather have whatever you're thinking about appear above your head, or would you rather have your entire life be live streamed?
Sake of safety, rather have my life live streamed in case I ever think about like an elephant or something.
That's a good point.
Or like a heavy piano or anything more than 200 pounds, I'd be in trouble.
That would be so funny. Like, dude, that's gotta be a movie where like you walk in on like your buddies and then they start, you like notice that they are talking about pianos. Like, hey, I gotta head out. Can we talk about something else, or just like really trying to like control the conversation?
Yeah, it sounds like a sitcom that could go on for 7 seasons.
Yeah. Number two, if you could have dinner with anyone in the world who's alive, who do you go with?
Oh, my instant gut reaction went to Will Smith.
Ooh, I haven't heard that one before. He's a good guy, or just interesting at least.
Yeah, I've just like kind of followed his story, and just like he's like has a magnetic energy about him that I really am drawn to.
Yeah, what would you like ask him, or what would you want to know?
I think it would be less of like what exactly would I want to ask him, and I would just like want to kind of get into a conversation, and wherever that led, I just feel like he would drop so many gems almost like without even trying.
Where would you go to eat?
That's a great question. My favorite place is Qdoba.
Yeah, there you go. That stuff's heated, man. Like it's Qdoba, Moe's, Chipotle. Everyone's like a ride or die one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have a tier system, and like Moe's has Mondays, so like on Moe's Mondays they do like half price burritos. You got to go pick up 2, one for now and one for later.
Number 3, what's your favorite thing you've bought with your own money?
Either like my laptop or FL Studio.
Okay, what's FLC? Is that an editing program?
Oh, it's like the DAW. It stands for Digital Audio Workstation. It's like how I make music. It's
Oh,
like pretty
okay.
popular.
Number 4, what's the last great TV show or movie that you saw?
Oh, The Final Table on Netflix. It's like Lexi, or my girlfriend. She is a home chef, and she like really loves food. And she got me into watching this show, and it's like the top 24 chefs in the world, and they kind of team up with another chef, and they do like a battle of the chefs, and they go all around the world to different culinary countries, and then they have to like do a challenge for that different
Ooh.
style of food, and then at the end it's just one final guy against his partner that got him there. They get to like sit at the final table with 9 other judges who are from all the other countries, who are like 3 Michelin stars, you know, top 50 restaurants in the world for the past 10 years. Like it's a really like it was a really the production was really good, and it was like high level competition. So I think that was like got me interested in it.
Yeah, that's sick. I have to check that out. I was always an Iron Chef person. Some Joe Schmo would come into there, and like he would have to pick one of like a famous chef. You know, Bobby Flay, I think was at one point an
Sure.
Iron Chef, and it was like a duel. I think it was like an hour long, and like you had to use a secret ingredient. It's kind of like Chopped of sorts, but like stadium type seating and like
Oh wow.
really intense. But that was like it was like mostly a Japanese like remake. Like it was a Japanese show, and then they made it American. All right, last one. You have a 3-person zombie apocalypse team you can build.
Growing up, my friend's dad, he always would talk about what we would do if there's a zombie apocalypse. His name's Chad Fowler. He like runs a baseball organization down in Franklin, but he would definitely be team member 1 just because he's like really intuitive when it comes to like survival stuff. And then honestly, probably like my dad.
You get one more person.
Oh, I'm not the 3rd person?
Well, yeah, we'll throw you another person.
All right, Lexi's giving me that look like I better choose her. So
Shut up. All right, man. Well, you passed the first 5. Let's get into your story. Day 1,
okay.
You've emerged out of the womb. Where are you at? Like, city-wise, family-wise, big family, small family?
I was born in like Beech Grove, and I'm pretty sure I just lived with my mom and my dad. I'm the first of 2. I have a younger sister, but obviously when I was born, she was yet to be born. So we lived in like an apartment for like 2 years, obviously before I could like remember much. But I remember when we were like two years old, I moved into the neighborhood in which I live now, and I'll get into that in a minute. But we moved in across the street from where I currently live with my grandparents, and then we lived there for like maybe a year or 2 before our house was open for sale, and then we just moved right across the street. And it's in a small town in Indiana. It's called Franklin Community. I basically spent my entire childhood and then early adult and now adult years living in the same home. So I'm in the same place where I grew up in since I was like 3 years old in Franklin. Yeah, so a lot of stability in my life, which I can't be more grateful for. As far as like the dynamic of my family, it's really simple. It's like 2 parents, 2 kids, and just like what you would imagine would be like kind of a typical middle class, you know, childhood. More sheltered than most, never went without, never had too much, but can't complain about anything, you know.
You mentioned sheltered. Was that kind of like you had to be 13 to go see PG-13 movies? You know, like you didn't curse very much. Like, what defines sheltered?
I didn't desire to go to like a rated R movie when I was younger, or to give you an example, it was more of like I kind of kept myself sheltered. I don't know if I had like separation anxiety from like my parents growing up, or if it was just like I never wanted to disappoint them or anything like that. Like I've talked to them a few times like that. They're surprised I never like snuck out of the house or anything like that. I hear some like horror stories from my friends and stuff like that, and they probably think I'm a wussy, but I never really gotten any much trouble just because I never had the desire. And growing up, I always played sports, and I think I was just so preoccupied with sports, especially travel baseball, which is like a year round thing. So my time and energy was just really involved. And obviously, you know, my parents were very supportive, and I didn't like leave a small town for a long time. Like I've never left the country. Yeah, shelter to the sense of like I didn't have much experience, if that makes sense, at a young age. So
What's your favorite memory from baseball?
whenever I was 13, we played in a tournament in Delaware. It's Rehoboth Beach was the name of a ballpark, and we were like underdogs or whatever. We basically went on to win the whole tournament. We didn't even lose one game. We ended up like sweeping everybody. But the funny part about the story is that at the end of the tournament, when we won a trophy, also when I was 13, everyone on my team was like 6 foot. I probably was shorter than 5 foot tall. So the running joke right now is that the trophy we won was taller than me. So I haven't lived that one down. I still hear it because I do baseball work now too. And the guy who coached me growing up who was like a second father to me in a lot of ways, was my baseball coach, and he started his own organization, and now I actually work for him. So we kind of still like laugh and joke about that. Anytime someone wants to know how good our team was, that's the first story that gets brought up.
Yeah, dude, my coaches, like, I'll never forget them. Like, they're some of the most formative people, like, in a surprising way.
Yeah, it takes a special breed to be like a coach.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So they usually have that intuitive, just like it bleeds into life more so than your sport, or at least a good coach.
Right. Like, you're in fitness now, sort of, like, you dabble in it. Like, have you always been such a fit guy? Like, I know, like you said, you just played baseball, but, like, have you always been fit, or did you at some point be like, oh, I got to become even more so?
Baseball, I was never really good at it until I decided I was always on the best teams, but I was always like one of the worst players. And I was kind of okay with that for a long time. I don't know like where my headspace was at that time, but once I got to high school, I realized that if I didn't start training harder, I probably wouldn't stand a chance, because I'm just like small statured anyway, like as far as like my composition. So if I wanted to compete at a high level, which the desire for that kind of came my junior year of high school, I just saw everyone else around me was either bigger, faster, stronger than I was, and if I even stood a chance, I'd have to hit the weight room. Fortunately, I had an incredible high school strength coach. His name was Jeremy Hartman. He's known in the powerlifting community as like one of just like a very respected individual. So he really honed in on just like good form, good technique, and then once you nailed that, it was like, how strong can we get you as fast as possible? Right. And I just bought into that once I started seeing results, and I took everything he ever taught me to college, where I continued my baseball career at the University of Tampa. Went all in on how hard can I go, and then I just continued to see results in my athleticism and my build. Obviously, whenever you're working out, you just like your confidence is up, your body starts to look, you know, like what you would imagine, you know, someone would want. To you look in the mirror and you're like, dang, I'm actually happy with like what this looks like. I'm thrilled, and it just feeds that fire, and then that kind of became the passion even over baseball. So I was like training 5 or 6 days a week, and then like leaving the gym and going to practice where I couldn't even like put my arms above my head because I was so like pumped up from the gym. Just overtraining. When you're young, you can do that. Like, and I say young, like when you're, you know, 18, 19 years old, there's probably no such thing as overtraining, but I just didn't really know much about it. I knew that if I went hard, I was going to keep seeing results. Once my baseball career ended, well, I guess I can get into why that ended. It was because I dropped out of school, just because I just didn't see the path that I was on leading to anything in which I desired. I dropped out of school and I moved back here, and then I was fortunate enough to be able to move into a house in Bloomington with 2 of my friends who actually went to IU, and I kind of just like hung out all day, and I had free time. So all I would do is just work out and then go to work. And that was my life for like 2 years until I found another like what started out as a hobby and ended up becoming like my true passion and what I believe is like my mission and everything like that for my life. So
right. Why did you go down to Tampa in the first place? Like, so let's go like high school, senior, like why Tampa? Like, were you thinking of going to IU and you're like, oh, Tampa has a good baseball program? Or
I was just always naturally good at school. Like I never had to try hard, and I was just like really it would like frustrate my teachers because I would like apply myself enough to get like the grades I needed, but they just knew that I had much more in me. But I think a lot of it was too that I just was spending my energy, which is finite, on other things like sports and stuff like that. So I was fortunate and blessed enough to have a GPA, SAT score. I sent my, what's it called? Like when you send in your, I don't know, like your application to a school. Yeah. I just sent it to as many schools as I possibly could have like imagined myself going to. And I knew I wanted to play baseball, but that wasn't my first kind of goal. It was just to get into a really good school. And then all of the amenities of Tampa, the city there, and also like living in Florida. And they had a Division II competitive baseball team. Where the year I played for them, they actually won the national championship at the varsity level. I was kind of on like the JV team at that time as a freshman, but it was just like a lot of things at that school that attracted me. It was a liberal arts school. There was only like 10,000 people. I think it fit my vibe a lot more than like a big school like IU, where I could see myself have gotten like caught up and lost in the sauce, if you will. But so everything about it just really fit. It's a really good business school, and there's a lot of like internship opportunities that come from it. And I went there to study economics.
How long did you last?
I lasted a semester, but I stayed for 2. The second semester was kind of a mess. I think I didn't even go to a class after spring break because I'd already like checked out. But
why?
Yeah. I don't know if the right word is depressed. I don't want to kind of throw that around like softly, but I just genuinely was not happy to do anything that was required of me to take that journey. You know what I mean? The only reason why school was even in the cards at that point was because I didn't want to give up baseball because they were kind of tied together. Once I quit school, baseball would be done. So it was just tough to like go to classes and want to pay attention. Like I said, it wasn't like I wasn't able to. It was just like I was not passionate about it. And at that time, I had like surrounded myself with a few individuals who were all about just kind of like chasing your dreams and kind of getting everything you deserve out of life. And I just realized that I deserved more than a 4-year degree for just to get like a job when I like graduated. Not that I'm knocking that for anyone who's called to that mission, but I just realized early on that just wasn't my destination.
What advice would you give to somebody who is considering dropping out of college, and what would be the best way to go about that conversation and just that whole process, like on whether they should or should not?
Yeah, for me, it was like a gut feeling that I just couldn't overcome. So it was really easy for me to just like pull the trigger. But I know for a lot of people, they may or may not have as supportive of a family or just a situation where that's even considered okay. So I would highly suggest just like confiding in someone who you trust and just sharing like your thoughts and, you know, your beliefs. And I mean, at the end of the day, I look at life as like this big reverse engineering problem, or that's probably not the right word, but look into the future, see exactly what you want, and then you just like reverse the steps all the way back to the point where you're at today. And if you kind of find someone who's already done what you want to do, which anything anyone has ever wanted to do has probably already been done or close to it, and you could find someone who wrote a book about it, have some just introspective thought and make a decision on what it is that you think you want at that time, and then try to put the dominoes in place to where if you just take the action on that road, you will eventually get to that place. We're just kind of shoved down our throats from, you know, day one that's the best route for us to take, and that there's really no other option. At least that was for me. And it wasn't like you have no choice, do this. But it was just like, I mean, ever since I was a kid, it was like, hey, if you do what, you know, these teachers and counselors and programs set up for you to do, to go to school, and you're successful, then your life will be successful. And I just bought into that. So that's until you learn to like think for yourself, which doesn't happen in my opinion until once you do graduate and leave high school in the first place. It's kind of hard to make those decisions and feel confident about them, because like I said, if all you've ever known was one way, and you don't have someone else to lead you in that direction, then you kind of got to take the reins for yourself. I just called my parents and was like, hey, I'm done. I mean, I think they just heard it in my voice that like it was the right decision. And I've always kind of been the type of person where I take responsibility for like my actions, and they just had to respect it. Like, I don't think I gave them a choice to like say that that's not okay. I wasn't disrespectful or anything like that, but I think, yeah, you just got to know what it is that you want and just take a leap of faith and just go, you know, do what you feel is right. And, you know, there's going to be bumps in the road and different things that, you know, pop up, trials and tribulations, but like that's going to happen anyway. So you might as well, you know, go through a hard time getting to where you want to go than going through a hard time just getting to some place that someone else decided was where you needed to end up.
Ours. So you're in Bloomington at this point, like you've left. Did you kind of feel pretty quickly or like early on that you were on the right track, and like kind of talk through those 2 years?
Yeah, I was really blessed and fortunate to have, like I said, the guy I grew up playing for, baseball for, he started his own baseball organization. And at that time, with me being so into training, he realized that I would be an asset for his organization to like train his players. So I kind of just like got a really lucky job immediately right after I moved back. I guess it's less than luck. It was probably more of just right timing, right place. But yeah, I was able to work for him and train his players, and I was making enough money to keep a 19-year-old kid happy. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really have I had really supportive parents, and they still support me financially even to this day if you know, times call for it. So at that time, there was nothing that kind of showed me that my decision was wrong. It felt right, so I just kind of let that intuitive feeling continue. And along the way, I had opportunities for different jobs, for different just things that someone can do to kind of see if that's what they want to do for the rest of their life. And this and that didn't work out, and I was just able to learn from different experiences. That like fun hiatus ended, and then I moved back home to Franklin. I guess there was like a crossroad where it was time to make a decision on what it is exactly that I wanted to do for at least the time being. So while I was in Bloomington, I was hanging out with just my friends a lot, and what we would do is we would just like play 2K, listen to music. I wouldn't even say my passion. That was where my interest in music started. And I was like, well, I mean, this seems extremely cool. Let me just look up and see how this is even done. And I was blown away by what I found. I didn't even realize at the time that you could just like have a laptop and have a professional recording studio all built inside of it. I kind of thought you had to have like $1 million of equipment and be like a musician for life. And basically what I'm saying is I didn't realize that someone who knew nothing about music could get really good at it really fast. I probably watched like 1,000 YouTube videos in that first year where music was like an interest for me. And then from there, the interest turned into more of a passion through the activity. And what I mean by that is like, if I never took the action to like learn more about it and really like try to even create it myself, I don't think that that emotional attachment would have been as strong as it is and as it currently is for me now, which I've just realized recently. To bring it back full circle, that was like right when I got into music, and that has kind of led me to this stage in my life now where I'm doing that most of my time, full time, if you will.
Has it been impacted like by what's been going on the last couple months?
Yeah, I can't train baseball players when no one's allowed to leave their house. So very, very blessed that my father is my landlord. So if you can imagine, we're able to work out a deal there. To spin it, which is what I always do. I like to spin these things into like a positive and keep it in perspective. So I actually have more time than I've ever had now to work on music, more time to perfect and hone my craft, so that, whenever the world decides to, flip the switch and come back on, hopefully I'm in a place where all of this in hindsight will actually be a very positive experience in light of all of the, unfortunate things that come from like the sickness and a lot of financial stresses on others and stuff like that. I guess I'm just not as affected personally by it. And I'm just trying to take advantage of the opportunity that has been given to me.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't know if you saw MGK, but like he's just like he recorded a song in his car. There's artists that are trying to take advantage of some stuff. I mean, it's a really shitty situation for a lot of people, unemployment, all kinds of stuff. And there's some other just interesting things that are happening. There is the one positive thing of if you've ever wished for more time to do something, you do have it, or you could have it in that situation. It's like if I only had more time to do X, Y, Z. Some people are now have that ability.
Now there's no excuse not to take that time and really invest it. The time to kind of sit around and sulk and worry about the future is, I think that time is like kind of come and gone for me, at least. Maybe for like the first couple days or weeks of this, it was kind of tough because you don't really know what the heck's going on. And I think there was like a mutual energy and just like the entire world of everyone's like anxieties, stresses, and worst nightmares were coming true. So everyone was kind of feeling that, and I definitely did as well. But for me, if I had some advice to give for anyone listening to this and has been affected by the energies of just other people who are kind of in that negative space, is I would just like either block, mute certain words. I deleted Twitter, stay off of Instagram as much as possible. Like Facebook is not a place to be if you can get caught up in stuff like that right now. Anyways, that's at least like my advice in that situation. People have a desire to get hit with dopamine as fast and as often as possible. And unfortunately, that's a perfect breeding ground for social media, positive or negative. It just comes down to how you filter your own feed, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, humans have what I believe it was called like a negativity bias, where the media has to like attract your attention somehow. And unfortunately, we're just geared towards negativity. And it's been like that since the beginning of media. It's like the stories that spread are the ones that kind of are more destructive than constructive. And I don't necessarily have the answer for solving that, but
do you see
I'm
John
sure
Krasinski, the guy who played Jim Halpert, that he's doing like Good News Only or something like that?
I saw like the headline or something. I didn't actually like look into it. Is it like it's like on Instagram or something like that?
It's on YouTube where he like just does only good news.
Got you. Well, I like that.
Yeah. What advice would you give for someone who wants to get into making music or fitness? If they want their entry level, maybe it's you, but a few years behind you.
What is exactly getting into fitness? I guess we could kind of, figure that out. But for me, it's like what is it like for someone who maybe isn't living the lifestyle that they know they should or could, that would improve their energy, their image of themselves, their just overall health and happiness. Someone who wants to get into that should take action immediately, because it's not that hard to like get a little bit of information and make that go a long way. And even minimal effort too, like just daily exercise and healthy eating is like an incredibly big step towards just like happier, healthy living. Now, someone who wants to get into fitness, where is like your lifestyle is driven around training or working out or you know, posting on Instagram or whatever, that's a whole different story that I kind of tried to go down that route too, because it was just easy for me to kind of transition from like college baseball player into like, you know, fitness guru, if you will. Like that's kind of like what I thought I wanted to do. And it just wasn't. I tried it and I had more fun working out myself and just like getting excited about my own training than trying to like show it off or trying to like coach others. And I work with baseball players now and I coach them and I am like the performance training coach, but I wouldn't really consider that like the fitness lifestyle that, you know, maybe some might consider whenever they hear that word, like someone who's like an influencer in that space. It's just my job. It's not like my lifestyle, but for people who want to do that, just making sure that like they know what that entails. It's like a 24/7 commitment to your own body and your own training and then sharing that with the world and trying to do it in a way that inspires others to do the same. And I'll always want to inspire others to live a happier, healthier, more fit life. It just wasn't the right lifestyle for me to like be in the fitness industry. So it's a slippery slope getting kind of addicted to training. It can be as bad as an addiction to anything else. For someone who just wants to, you know, work out, eat healthier, there's so much information out there, and I would just stop after you find something that just works for you and just, you know, run with it for as long as you can until you get the results that you want. Bringing it back to like that reverse engineering thing. Find someone who either looks like the way you want to look, has the type of energy that you want to have, eats the type of foods that you want to eat, and then just kind of find out from them how they did it and then go that route.
What about like producing?
For someone who just wants to get started, just hop on YouTube. How to make, you know, this type of music or whatever you're interested in, whether it be like EDM, hip hop, trap, just pop, whatever really interests you. Find that and then just go look into it. Like, how is this stuff even made? You know, what do I need to get to make it? What's like the bare minimum to get started? What does it look like if I do this for the next 5 years? Like how long is it going to take before I'm happy with things I create? Are there other people that you can find that are you know, gonna want to take on that journey with you? Because that's what I'm finding now, is that producing is like a team sport, and music in general is not supposed to be a solo act, really. Like, you make music for others, you know what I mean? Like if your whole point of making music was to just like hear yourself make music, you're not going to want to do it for very long. But yeah, find a group of people who kind of is either just getting started just like you are. Talk to them. Anyone can reach out to me because I love talking to newer producers, and I have been doing that much more recently. Just like kind of guiding people in the right direction. I've watched all the YouTube videos. I've, you know, spent countless hours on myself just like getting better, and I feel like I can help save a lot of time and energy for other people who are interested in getting involved too. So anyone who wants to reach out can definitely do that.
Do you have like a story of something that's like, oh, this is so cool, like this happened because I started doing stuff with music?
The first time I made a song with someone and then it got like put out on Apple Music, you know what I mean? Like, the vision from the beginning was to be a producer that, you know, made beats for artists who either rap or sing over and then get those released. And then the coolest story is just like how I met the artist that I'm working with now, who I believe is going to be extremely successful just in life in general, but he's also a really good artist. We kind of just met serendipitously at the studio. We were both there to meet a different producer, me for mentorship, him for beats, and the other person just wasn't there at that time, and me and him kind of like sat on the couch and chopped it up for a couple hours, and then we just started building, and now we work full-time together as a producer, manager, and artist. So it's really cool to just connect with other people who kind of have this, I guess, end goal as you, which is to make really good music and, you know, make it a career and make a living from it and share that music with other people.
Yeah. Are there other producers that you like look up to, or like, damn, the way they put that song together, like it's so cool.
I'm so inspired daily by just like how incredible a lot of the mainstream producers are, and even other underground producers. But like some of my biggest inspirations are Pierre Bourne, Murda Beats, and Metro Boomin. Like I just listen to their music, and it might seem so simple to like a lot of people, and like, oh, that's a repetitive beat here and there. But when I'm like really sitting down dissecting it, like they really did so many small meticulous things that just make it really professional and pull everything together. And it's just like, wow, that's cool. You know what I mean? And it makes you want to just like do better. So I definitely find a lot of inspiration in the greats. I think if you're going to want to do anything and be, you know, really good at it, if I wanted to play basketball and, you know, have the best skills, I would probably study, you know, the late great Kobe Bryant, RIP, or like Michael Jordan, and learn from them, just like I would if I wanted to be the best chess player. I would probably go find whoever that is somewhere. I don't know, but I know I can find him on YouTube or Google him or something, and he's probably got a book so I could read it.
Yeah. There's that guy, this song is not new, but it's probably last year, like the guy who did the box, where he goes,
oh yeah,
like he just did that with his mouth,
yeah.
like, and then recorded it and became like that song that just blew up.
As long as there's a vision and you can get creative and there's anything is possible, you know what I mean? Like it's really, once you like learn the system and kind of know your tools, like you can do anything that creates a vibration can create a dope sound that becomes either viral or just like a part of a great hit, you know?
Yeah, have you ever done one of those videos where like taking household objects and making it into, you know, a song? Like, have you ever thought about doing one of those?
I don't have as much background in like sound designing. So like, for example, someone can like slap a pillow and turn it into a really cool kick drum. Mm-hmm. I would just rather buy that kick drum from them because I don't have as much,
I see what you're
I don't have as much background. Yeah. Like I think that stuff's really cool. And I think you can get some really awesome textures and stuff like that. I just personally haven't spent as much time learning how to actually manipulate the sounds. I just like hearing them and then seeing how far I can take them in a production.
You've had what may or may not be considered depression at some point. What has been your experience like with mental health as a whole, either personally or just in your circle of influence, you know, people you know?
What is like the politically correct term, like issues, or I feel like that's not how you'd say it. Like
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
it depends on the person, because I I tend to say mental health because like mental issues is like, oh, it's a problem, like mental, you know, like illness, like illness, like it depends. I feel like it changes every day, just similar to what pronouns would be, or like kind of in that realm. But I just say mental health because it's health would be like a positive word, and then like illness issues. If you could say either, it's not going to offend me necessarily. But I would say mental health.
My experience with mental health has been overwhelmingly positive just in my entire life, where I may have had experiences where feelings of depression, which I would relate those to just like the certain things you're not like, if you're normally excited to do things, that like level of just like excitement or enjoyment that you get from those is like lessened due to another circumstance. That's kind of how I would consider my experience with either depression was, which is like, oh, I love baseball, I love Tampa, I love school, all this, or sorry, I love living here, but school is really being a drag. So it caused the stresses that could have led to a depressive state had I continued. Fortunately, I had the self-awareness to know like where that path was taking me. So I just kind of hopped off on the exit and then, you know, redirected myself towards a more positive direction. I would say for me, I've actually experienced anxiety more than anything that would be like depression, but it's because I'm like really, yeah. So I'm like really type A. Like I want to control everything. I want to like, I have like so much vision for like how the world should be and like how my daily life should be and all the things that need to fall in place to make that happen. And if I want to be here in 5 years, it has to be like this, this, and this. And I think that is probably almost, there's like a spectrum there where it can be healthy, but it can probably also get into a realm of like, unhealthy. And I've experienced that kind of sway back and forth with just like different things with family, or certain things not going the way you expect them to, or how fast you would like things to move, and just feeling like, because for me, anxiety has been like, you need to be doing something to solve this problem, but that problem might not have an answer that you are able to solve.
Yeah.
And that for me is like what anxiety is. It's like, I should be able to take care of this, but it literally is out of my control. So there's nothing I can do. But the harder I try, like the more anxious I'm going to get about it. Whenever that does happen, it's just like, again, you have an option to take a step back and realize that that may or may not be the case, whether it's with someone you love or with a certain situation that you're really hoping turns out a certain way. There's certain things you don't have control over. And what I kind of learned through those experiences were that like being a more powerful individual is not always controlling everything. It's like being able to let go of that control, and maybe whether you either want to give it to God or your higher being, or if you just want to just kind of let it go and just know that things happen for a reason, and whatever that is, you're going to be tough enough to overcome it anyway. So that's kind of been my experience and what I've learned through just like either, certain anxious times of my life or certain depressive times of my life. And I hope that can kind of be relatable for other people too.
What's the best thing someone who is going through something, like what's the best thing they can do?
Oh man, I just think it's so important to have people to just talk to, someone you trust, someone that is going to like be respectful of your feelings. And also, but another thing too is like, you got to get with people that are going to like kind of like gear you straight. It's not always about just hearing what you want to hear. It's about kind of hearing what you need to hear. So like talking to someone who you trust and maybe even look up to and can kind of give you some direction about, or maybe they've been through something that you're going through, and then they can kind of give you their experience. And that usually, like, no one wants to feel like they're going through anything alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a that's a lot of what I believe is like one of the biggest areas where mental health is actually a illness or a problem, is when people believe that they're the only ones who go through certain feelings or emotions, and that other people don't have that same experience. So they feel isolated, and then they just like that can spiral into a more heavier condition, if you will. So having people to talk to, and just like, this might sound rash or harsh or whatever, but like, it's really hard to like wake up in the morning, hit the gym, eat healthy foods, spend time with people you love, and do things that make you proud to be a human, and still feel bad. So like, I would just highly advise people who do have those maybe feelings or problems with their mental health, to just like do check off the easier things to do, and then maybe the other things that might be a little bit tougher might not feel so tough. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah, momentum is important. I mean, yeah, for me, like,
Yeah.
I was even talking with my counselor at one point. I was like, I'm not doing the things I want to be doing. Like, I always feel like there's this other person out there that I'm supposed to be, that is going to Comic Cons or playing piano way more or doing X, Y, Z. I'm like, well, yeah. And since, I don't know, I think there's something to that. I like that. What about like on a supporter side? Someone who is the family member, the friend, the girlfriend, someone who is having to support someone who's going through something. What's the best thing they can do?
Not because supporting someone is hard, but because like you want to feel like you're doing it the right way. You don't want to add to the problem, if you will. Like, I've definitely been a supporter for people, and I really like that role. But I do believe too, at some point, like, I'm not necessarily right for everyone. I think it's finding out if you're the type of person who should be supporting that the someone who's confiding in you, like if your personality is going to nurture their situation or not. And if you can have that awareness to know either, yes, it is, I'm going to continue, or no, it's not, then you can even do a better part by helping them find someone else who might be like the supporter for them. Because that's from my experience, like my like gung-ho, just like, come on, pull yourself out of that misery or whatever. It might not work for someone who doesn't know how to do that. As a supporter, I've been able to like just be like, hey, maybe you should talk to, or could talk to someone else, or here's someone who I know might, be more your, like, not your speed. I'm not trying to like downplay this or anything like that, but definitely just being the right fit for someone who needs to be who needs a supporter, and knowing if you are or not for that person is a pretty big deal, I think.
I mean, that's why I'm creating this. I want to make people who are going through it feel less alone. And then I want to come up with tips and tricks and tools for people who are in the supporter role, who have maybe no idea what it's like to have mental health issues, or like, they want to help and they do, but they still could use some ideas. Because for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe it's in my mind, I'm like, that you have to slap them in the face. If that was the way to do it, I would want this podcast to exist, because someone comes on here and says, actually, when I slap them in the face, it makes them feel really good. That's obviously not a good thing to do, but I'm just saying, if that was the miracle trick, was listening and being an active person, or texting all the time, like, I would want supporters to listen to this too. Oh, that I should listen more, or text them more, or call them, or buy them lunch more, or slap them in the face, because apparently that works. Whatever it is.
Right.
Like, I'm just trying to get ideas from people, depending on whatever your situation is, because not everybody
Absolutely.
who comes on here and talks with me has direct experience with mental health and anxiety, but they could be a supporter. And, it's just trying to get advice and research for people, for whatever the listener's position is.
Think about like a storm, and if you're in the middle of a storm and you're a tree and you're rooted into the ground, it's easy for birds to like kind of hop in and kind of like grab a branch and hang on for dear life, you know what I mean? And instead, if you're like a little bitty like plant that's, if you're like the grass or something, where you're like flimsy and you're not really rooted deep into the ground, you might not be able to hold someone else. But if you want to support others, I think the best thing you can do is really just like really ground yourself in whatever it is that helps you be just the happiest, healthiest, just higher energy person that can attract, maybe not like, maybe you're a healer and you want to attract people who need healed, but like your job would just be to like ground yourself as much as possible, so that when those storms do come, like people naturally seek you out, because you're so it's like you're not going to be wavering around, you know what I mean? Like, you're in like control of your own emotions and stuff like that, so people find it a lot easier to just hang on to you for dear life when the storm does come. And then once it's over, it's like, all right, little birdies, like, you can all go fly out, and maybe you find your own tree to like kind of dig into the ground. But for the time being, it's just be a tree.
So what do you want to do, like, kind of next couple of years, this year? I know the coronavirus, that kind of stuff's kind of throwing people's timelines off, just like everyone else, right? I'm sure yours. But like, are there things that maybe use this time to kind of put it on record, things you want to do in life, things you want to do in the next couple of years or this year, that are on your mind?
Yeah, some things I'm really looking forward to, and are actually the things that were affected most by the time that we're in right now. And it's that Lexi and I and our friends, we really enjoy going to like shows, like EDM festivals and shows. And we were going to go to Bonnaroo this year for the first time. It was going to be like our first camping festival, which is like for 4 days. Unfortunately, they just pushed that back to September. They didn't like cancel it altogether. It's supposed to be in June. So I'm really looking forward to going and doing that. One of my favorite things in the world is going to Snake Pit at the Indy 500, and that was unfortunately canceled this year. But I'm still just as looking forward to going next year as ever. It's just like one of the best days ever.
I heard it got moved to
for
August or something.
for me and
for
my
July.
Yeah, so the race got moved, but they just went ahead and canceled Snake Pit, unless I'm missing a piece of
Yeah,
information.
you're probably right.
So that's where it's at for now. I think they had issues rescheduling artists due to like competitive clause, like with other shows that they had going on at that time. But either way, I really do enjoy and love going to those shows and festivals and meeting people who are kind of the same culture and community. As far as like my career goes, just making music a full-time career and being financially stable from it and being able to give that same stability to others. Like I want to build a team of producers, team of artists, teams of creatives, and come together and form a full production company that kind of from A to Z works with artists to release their projects and do all that. That doesn't have a stern timeline, just because I'm still kind of I'm in the storm right now, kind of figuring things out.
Right.
I don't really have a lot to go off of as far as like how quick or how slow that process might be. But every day I'm just honing in on my craft, getting a little bit better at making music, digging deeper into my current relationships, since it's kind of hard to go out and meet new people right now. It's like, okay, well, how much deeper can I grow with the people that I do, already have connections with? Taking care of everything that, I want to do in the future, and making sure that I can, provide those experiences for others as well is really where I'm at with it. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wish you all the best and going forward.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
All right, dude, let's wrap up. Let's do our final 5 here. A little bit deeper questions. Number 1, what is the best thing someone can do in the coronavirus?
My advice would be to, stay away from social media as much as possible. Check in to get your information. Cross-reference that with as many different things as you can, so that you can find what might happen to be true. Connect deeper with the people that you are in your circle currently, whether that be texting them, calling them, FaceTiming them. Find a new skill or a current skill that you can just get 10 years better in 1 year, because you have more time. Staying home and being smart as to not, spread the viruses. Let's get it. The faster we can get it over with, man, the faster we can go back to living our other lives. So I think listen to the people who seem to know what's going on, and then other than that, just getting right with yourself and with your people, man.
Number 2, would you rather wear a tuxedo every day or a swimsuit every day?
I'm gonna pick swimsuit, but I have to move from Indiana.
Right.
Them winters are not cool.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. Number 3, what's your favorite part about yourself?
For me, if I just had to like pick something, it would just be my energy. I've just become self-aware enough to realize that I always have just really good energy when it comes to sharing that with others. I'm received very well by a lot of different communities, and I love that when I'm around other people, I always just seem to brighten up things for them, and I do that on purpose. And that's just me being aware. Like I said, it's not a braggadocious comment or anything like that. It's just like I work so hard on making sure I have just like really good, clean, positive energy to share with people, and that's like my favorite thing.
Number 4, what is a motto, catchphrase, piece of advice that you've received that you kind of live by?
The reverse engineer thing, man, I keep coming back to it, but like I feel like that's a very powerful piece of advice that I either read somewhere or someone told me, or the both, and that just resonated with me. Find out what it is exactly that you want, whether it be in a career, in a relationship, in a X and a Y and a Z, and then from there, go find someone who's achieved that, whether they be alive or not, whether they have written a book or have a course online, or maybe the person down the road, whatever it is, and then just ask them how they got there, everyone who's ever achieved success in any level will love to share those stories with you, will love to share that experience with you. That's kind of the whole point of achieving, I feel like, is to reach that point where now it's time to share that story with others so that they can do the same, and we can all just continue to grow forward. But yeah, find out what you want, find someone who's done it, learn from them, and then just start taking action. Plant your feet where you stand, and let's get it done. The journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first one, or 1,000 miles, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So take your action.
All right, last one. What's your proudest moment?
I think the proudest moment is just every single moment that I am in the moment, if that makes sense. And I think the thing that I'm going to be most proud of is yet to come, because I just always kind of aspire to achieve more, be more, and share more. So even just right now, for this moment right now, realizing like what has happened and what the things I've done to kind of create this moment, and just stopping and appreciating that. Anytime I can do that is always a moment that I'm like most proud of. And that happens, you know, that might be once a day, or might be once a week, or sometimes that might be a while before I personally like reconnect to that. But I really do value like awareness and living in the now. So anytime that I just recognize that I'm doing that is a moment that I can be proud of.
Breaking the matrix, becoming aware.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet, man. Well, now what I want to do is I want you to pick a person, significant other, so Lexi, unless you got another one that I don't know about. But so Lexi, you know, best friend, parent, doesn't matter, anyone you want. But we're shouting them out. Hey, shout out Janice from 8th grade for getting me into music, whoever you want. But we're doing this so that you can share this part of the podcast with them. So that way you can kind of get a little package of encouragement, like just thanking them for what they've done for you.
Number one, like shout out would definitely go to, and this is not to leave out, you know, Lexi or my family or anything like that, but I firmly believe that the person who I crossed paths with and who has influenced and impacted my life to make all those great relationships that I do have with those people come true has been Adam Carendang. So the story is long, and I can't wait to tell it one day, and him and I are going to write a book. But long story short, we just met at a perfect time where he introduced me to positivity, the law of attraction, personal growth, the desire for more, all these things that have and he helped just like mold and impact me and my personality in a way that has allowed me to kind of become a magnet for all things in which I desire that are, you know, good. So I can't thank him enough for just being himself and recognizing great potential in me, and then watering that seed daily for years, and he still does. So shout out to Adam Carendang for sure.
Shout out. So how can people get a hold of you?
I just started a YouTube channel. This is more for like producers and stuff. I'm going to do like tutorials and beat making videos and stuff like that. So Be Real Beats, BREEL, that's Be Real, and then Beats on YouTube. Same with Instagram. I have a Be Real Beats account, but then I also have a personal account because like I said, I like to go to shows and I have friends and family and training and all that stuff that I post over there, and that's just Brandon Real on Instagram. And any of those platforms with like a private message or a DM or anything like that. And if you want to actually grow a relationship, because I'm open to meeting, helping any and everyone who might listen to this and think I can offer them some value, or just might want to just hit me up and talk or whatever. But like I said, my DMs or private messages or all that are wide open, and, you know, hopefully some relationships can be cultivated from that. So
thanks so much for joining me, man. It means a lot just for you to be on the podcast, and kind of a weird like snapshot interaction, and it led to something really cool here just for you to share your story. And, you know, I can't wait to see where your music goes. And I know a couple artists, I'll have to at least just be like, hey, go check this guy out. I'll have to do that for you.
Yeah, that would be much appreciated. And yeah, I want to say too, like, I know like we briefly met, and I'm just really grateful and appreciative for our relationship and being able to value for you and your platform, and reciprocate from you as well. So I definitely do appreciate you.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Hey everybody, this is Ryan from the Classic Buffalo Podcast. Wanted to take a second to talk about Anchor, how I'm actually making this podcast happen. Super happy that I'm partnering with them. So, Anchor is actually the easiest way to make a podcast. I've done my research. This is basically the best way. I promise. It's going to give you everything you need in one place for free, which is the best part. It's going to have tools, so you don't really need a fancy schmancy recording guy. Anchor's going to be helping you out there, and then they're going to distribute the podcast everywhere to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, everything. And then you can also make money with basically no minimum listenership, which is kind of rare. So hop on Anchor as soon as you can. Thanks. And that's the end of the episode. Thank you so much, Brandon, for joining me on this episode. You're such a positive guy, and it's funny how life will just kind of throw you different situations. I knew Lexi a little bit, and then she's like, yeah, my boyfriend's over there. I'm like, oh, I got to meet this guy. And so I actually met her first, and she'll actually be an upcoming guest on this podcast, which is awesome. But Brand, it's as you know, in Classic Buffalo, we love to share kind of two sides of a coin. If someone's like, yeah, blah, 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 it's an important person, I'm like, oh, we got to get them on and get their perspective on this person. So we're going to be doing that in a couple of episodes in the future. So look forward to that. But Brandon, you have so much positivity and humbleness. I wanted to point out a few things that you said and just general observations that I had. One of the things that was really, I don't know if you missed it or not, but if you go back to earlier in the episode when Brandon was like, I don't know, like asking a question about you seem like an expert in this field, which I'm technically not, but I know some things. But hey, what do you call this thing? Mental health, mental issues, whatever. Not only does that make me feel good or feel like I'm an expert, but like that's the approach that we should have in everything that we do. It makes the person that we ask feel like the expert in the room or smart and feel like we value their opinion. Because we probably do, and we want to learn. We want to be, we want to learn a new skill. We want to be polite. We want to do these things. So I want to point that out because I think that's such a cool thing that he did. So shout out to you, dude, for kind of just being like, hey, what's the appropriate term to use for this? Or what would you do? Like coming to somebody and being a beginner in something, even if maybe you do know or have your own prior opinions about a way to do something or know how to do something, even like coming across that way, it gets you far. The other couple of things, like in your pursuit of your passion, this guy's doing DoorDash. Even if he's helping his girlfriend or what, like he's doing side jobs in his pursuit of his main passion. He's dabbling in a lot of areas. You see, if you've listened to a couple episodes before, that's kind of a recurring theme of like doing a side job and doing what's necessary to get your ends met, and then you can kind of do what you love. And if you're in the music industry in general, like link up with Brandon. He's a really solid guy. Just even if you want to like make beats with him, or like if he could teach you stuff or be a good mentor, like he's kind of put his heart on his sleeve here. And so like if you feel free to reach out and just become friends or network or get tips if you're trying to get into music, I'm sure he'd love to help you, or even in fitness too. But that and like being a tree branch for some people and like eventually turning into a tree, like there were a couple of cool things just on that I thought were really interesting. And just sometimes you can't be someone's complete full support system, and being able to evaluate and know what your style is, with especially just an encouragement, and knowing that and being able to communicate that with someone who is struggling, that's really important. There's even in like counseling, I mean, I hate to compare counseling and friendships, but like counseling there are different counselors who have different styles. Some are going to like recommend things. Some are going to just be like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? They're going to be like that. Whereas some other ones, they're going to be like, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. And they're going to really try and get you in touch with your feelings. There's going to be like a bunch of different types of strategies with counselors. And I just want you to be aware of that like people are like that too. Some people can't be, everything for you. Some people can be, hey, we just go and play pickleball or basketball or football. And some people, like, they can be there at your darkest, deepest moments. And some people have different styles and different relationships. Somebody you just met, you can't be like, hey, so like, blah, 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 blah. Whoa, that was super deep, So just kind of be in the evaluation process with that. Look at your friendships. Maybe even make a spreadsheet if you're an organizational head like me sometimes. And just see what, if you were to rank people, how close you are with people, like a 1 to 5, and then what are certain topics that you would or wouldn't withhold with somebody. I tried doing that. It was actually kind of a fruitful exercise. So maybe try that. But, Brandon's got a lot of good insights. So hopefully you're able to glean some stuff and maybe even link up and network with them. If you'd like to be like Brandon, maybe hop on the phone with me. We're still kind of social distancing podcasting. I'm heavily considering going to 2 episodes a week again, just because I'm really caught up and have a lot of content and some things I want to try and do. It's been okay. Transitioning into what's going on with me. There's 2 things, I would say, that have been going on. One would be, I tried CBD for the first time, putting that on record. I'm going to have more trials and figure out how that all goes. Because my biggest pet peeve when I would take like one-offs for anxiety and one-offs, like I was on Xanax a long time ago, but those types of like, as needed, you're having a panic attack, let's calm down. A lot of times with that, for me, I become like a backseat driver, and I hate that feeling because it makes me feel like I'm high, and it makes me feel like this person doesn't know. And it's sort of like my mouth is talking and I'm almost just listening to the conversation. And so, if CBD becomes like that, I don't really want to, mess with that, because it's sort of like, I'd want it to chill, which is probably what it's supposed to be doing. At least the one I was taking is it's more of like a chill, relax. But, stay tuned on that. I'll kind of keep you guys updated on what my thoughts are and stuff. But I haven't taken it enough to have a good opinion on it, but I've started. Because I'm off my meds at this point. Been so for a couple of months, and it's just been an interesting experience, trying to establish my baseline. I think my depression's been kind of just generally consistent, and sometimes just really rough days, but the anxiety also is, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's a little bit stressful for everybody. So it's a little hard, but there's that. And then because of everything that's going on with all the protests and the looting and there's a lot going on, and everybody has their own opinions on how to deal with everything that's going on. I have my own opinions, but I was supposed to be getting a window displayed downtown for Vintage Indie, my clothing company thing. And I was like, this week was supposed to be a big thing, because this is an opportunity to kind of get a lot of exposure for the vintage thing. And because of all the protests and the looting that happened this past weekend, they basically closed the mall because it got looted. The one street that my window was going to be on, either it got destroyed. I know a lot of the stuff, just all the windows are gone, or it was boarded up and the mall is just not going to let us put windows there. So that has gotten indefinitely put on hiatus. And so now I'm like, what do I do? I've got all this preparation stuff. I was going to make signs. It feels like I'm man, what's my next steps? What do I do? So it's just curveballs being thrown at my way. And, in some ways I was taking it, like I mentioned possibly in the previous, a couple episodes ago, of just wanting to take a social media hiatus from Vintage Indie, just posting every single day. And, trying to focus more on this, because this is my passion. And, maybe I'll start pouring more energy into this, and kind of, since there's kind of this up in the air for Vintage Indie, it's sort of maybe I can just pour more time into this. And I've thought about doing a couple things where we do a Discord chat, audio and video, where we're kind of just getting together once a week with some of us, and we're just going to be sharing what's going on. A lot of what I've envisioned as being. would be kind of the digital version of that. And so I've thought about doing that. Maybe if you listen to this episode and you think that's a cool idea, let me know if you agree with that. I've entertained doing video versions of this podcast, but there is kind of I like the anonymity or the voice. If somebody does want to be anonymous, it's kind of nice not having that video. But I have thought that was kind of cool to do that with an upcoming episode, or just kind of thinking about that. And yeah, just making almost like a YouTube channel and posting different tips and tricks that I have, and just maybe my own thoughts on certain things. So there's a lot going on. Feel free to reach out and say, hey, Ryan, you're awesome. Those always, I can't say no to those compliments or encouragements. So everybody can use those. And if you don't do it for me, do it for somebody you do love a lot, and just be like, hey, I was thinking of you. Those texts always slap. So, well, until next time, there may or may not be an episode this Thursday. I haven't decided yet, but there will be one next Monday for sure. And until next time, it's been your boy Ryan. See ya.